Okay, so the first thing to note is that Rush started on the top side of his jungle because Double Lift is pretty known for wanting Krugs a lot, or he pretty much always started a camp if they're not lane swapping, and sometimes even if they are. So Sneaky and High matched that with the Gromp, and Boss giving him a leash on Krugs just means that he's actually not gonna have as fast of a clear. Svenskaren's in the same boat though, so they're just pretty much on farm jungle routes, which this is important to note. They both started on the same side, so you're not gonna see any invades, at least not on the first clears, or unless they do like some weird invade route. Rush is actually avoiding his red completely, and he's going uh typical of like season 1 or season 2 clear routes, where you go all the smaller camps and then you clear a buff after that. Let's see if he's going Gromp or not. I think he went blue after Wolves. So Spence Garen took his blue after Gromp and did the Wolves. And then he went for this River Crab, probably to get some extra vision for bottom lane. And that looks like that would actually be like a really bad trade for C9. But Sneaky knows his matchups pretty well. He knows that he's in a Soraka lane, so he can afford to be the person that's trading. And they pretty much instantly lose the lane if Soraka loses a lot of her health, where she can like instantly heal you to full. One more heal. Yeah. So I think Rush really just wanted to get his red buff for when he was going to be ganking, and he didn't think Spencer Garen would be smart enough to take it. So it's kind of a greedy start from him actually, but Braum and Kog'Maw are actually really good together because Kog's W makes his attack speed really fast. It's actually notably better than Lucian, which is what a lot of people used to like to pair with Braum because of his double hit passive. Kog'Maw and Braum just really fit well together right now. If I remember correctly, this early game starts out even and then it goes slightly in C9's favor. TSM got one kill. Then C9 does some like nice play on the top lane. So Rush, what he was doing there is just making sure TF could recall without missing any waves. So by the time Bjergsen's able to push the next wave in, if he decided to stay, TF would be back in time for that. So he's actually going to match his recall, even though he had a lot more health. I'm assuming that bottom lane is just farm lane at this point because Soraka heals back any damage that Double Lift and Yellow Star are going to want to put down. So it's kind of like the attrition lane. Anytime you're up against the attrition, you opt out of it. You can't afford to trade with Janna Shield. You can't afford to trade with Soraka Heal. That's pretty much how it goes. So Svenskaren is looking to get some camps for himself. That's just the kind of pick jungle playstyle he likes to play. It does give you a lot of information on the enemy jungler, which is nice. I think he could afford to play a little bit harder carry though, especially on TSM. They don't necessarily need supportive players. They just need everyone to carry really hard. That's how TSM operates. That's how they should operate, and that's how they've operated successfully in the past. If Bjergsen would have stayed a little bit longer, the chain actually would have procced the second part of damage. He was actually like a quarter of a second off. For whatever reason, he decided to back off, probably because Jensen was pulling a stun card. So these trades, you can actually learn a lot. LeBlanc really wants to play that kind of aggressive style, but Jensen's got a decent amount of sustain right now to deal with it. And he really just wants farm. I wish they would show a little bit more of the bottom lane, but only thing really to note is that Balls gets a slight CS lead on Hanser. That actually ends up being kind of important though, because you'll see his CS lead get bigger and bigger as the game goes on. And if we're looking just based off of team comps right now, LeBlanc is kind of an early game champion, so is Gragas and Poppy. Braum can be all game, but he's not necessarily better than any other champion mid to late game, so they've got a pretty early game focused comp, with the exception of Doublelift. So basically what happens is if there's ever a point where Doublelift can't deal damage, then TSM's team comp just kind of doesn't do anything. Where TF's going to scale up and deal a lot of damage. Lee Sin will always be relevant due to displacement, so he won't necessarily do as much damage anymore, but just because of his kit, he'll remain relevant. GP, of course, will get better and better late game, and Kalista isn't better than Kog'Maw late game. She just, her team fight utility is better than Kog'Maw because of the ability to save your support or throw them back in as well. You can take a lot of cooldowns with Kalista ultimate, and Sneaky usually has pretty good timing on it, so I'm probably going to end up skipping through part of this. That was too far. Alright, so the setup for this was that C9's trying to dive Haunter, but Svenskeren shows up right away. So Jensen has to burn his flash. He gets Gragas ulted back in. Haunter does the quick channel, which basically knocks up Jensen for like not very long, but he eventually flashes out a GP ultimate this way. And the ignite finishes him off. So now you've got Bjergsen coming in. Jensen sees this and ports away to his tower. Rush knows he needs to go in and do damage in order for Balls to survive here. So he ends up blowing his flash as well. Now Rush uses his ultimate here. I actually think he should have queued him first and then ulted. It would have been like a smoother combo, and he might have got like an extra auto off. Because once you're at this point and you're in range of LeBlanc, you're taking a tower shot. You probably can't afford to take one tower shot or a Gragas barrel, so that's just too much. He's deleted. And then Jensen is actually going for Bjergsen to do damage. He's like really close to killing both of these guys. And Svenskeren walks back into the wild card. If he just keeps walking here, he actually doesn't die, but he jukes back into it. And it actually hits Bjergsen too, because you can tell he aimed it at him. If he's going to aim it at Gragas, then the middle card would have been aimed this direction. Let's see if I can find a better timestamp. Just to play it out really quick. He walks right back into it. I'm not sure if that... I think that still would have hit him, but... Hold on, I want to be sure. I went back too far. We'll watch it. We'll go super slow. Even slower. Stun card. Ooh, I don't know, man. He turned around right there. If he just kept walking, he probably would have had a lot of. Yep, he would have been he would have been clear down here by the tower. I want to say Svenskeren could have avoided that. Yep, because it just now hits the wall over here. It's actually a pretty big mistake. So Jensen poured it out, and then like he's all the way coming back in. They have to know something's up though because Rush is just standing there. Let's see it again. Yeah. It's hard to tell because Grog is just so fat. It might have clipped the backside of him. So Svenskeren uses E. If he didn't turn around, he would have been about right here. That's a really tough one to call because the tower would clip him back this way a little bit. Okay. I'm not gonna spend any more time on it. But it ends up being that um, C9 has a lot of gold on a Jensen at the moment. Vision games, whatever. I think this is actually a point where it stalls out. We're gonna skip through a lot of this game. Missed a kill. Oh, okay, yeah. That was the one that the cameraman actually missed. That's why I missed it. It's gonna show the replay here in a second. They actually have to skip this replay too. So you can see how they finished Jensen or Bjergsen off. Because this team fight was happening like right after. So TSM was starting on the dragon, and it's probably not a good idea against TF. If I remember correctly, they were also really close to finishing it, but like they made the mistake of overcommitting when they didn't have Poppy. See where Poppy's at on the minimap right now? GP can contribute with his ultimate, which he does. And now Poppy's teleporting over down here. By the time he gets in, this is actually already a lost fight for a TSM. Even if they had a ward on top of themselves for Haunter to teleport into, that wouldn't have made a difference. It might have actually been even worse. and Svenskeren is on C9's part of the jungle. Rush just flashes here to secure it and make sure that he doesn't get the execute off. And then coming up here, below Jensen's flash. So he can't play as aggressively as he wants to in this next fight. So they're going to decide to start sieging. C9 gets 2 turrets though. Now if TSM doesn't hold on to their mid tower, then it's pointless to give up their 2 side lane towers. So the trade here is C9 gets Dragon and 2 towers, and TSM gets Rift Herald and a mid tower. That actually makes the gold a lot more even of a trade, but C9 actually has like 5,000 gold lead at the moment. Most of that is just their kill gold. The CS is pretty even except top lane. GP just has access to more gold because of his passive, which is going to get nerfed, but that's kind of irrelevant for this game. He's also up like 40-50 CS though, and he's going to continue to be able to plunder with his barrel combo. So the longer this game goes, as we talked about earlier, the better it is for C9. They've got Soraka, they've got TF, they've got GP. Those are all late game champions. And the rest of the champions that they've got, even though they're kind of early mid game focused, they can still function in a late game team comp. And it actually helps balance it out too. Like if you have any more of a late game comp than C9, you probably just instantly lose if you don't win lane. So I like the balance in C9's comp. I think TSM needed one more late game threat. I think Haunter's been a little bit more comfortable on champions like Fiora or like hard carries in general. Poppy is good, like I don't know, he just didn't really get a chance to get going in this game for whatever reason. And there's actually a few mistakes that he made that we'll be able to highlight coming up. I think Jensen's flash is still down for this fight. Here's one mistake. Haunter misses the stun onto Rush, so he actually knocks him further away from Doublelift. If he stuns him right here, then Doublelift can DPS him pretty much from where he's standing, maybe a little bit closer, because Rush would be actually closer to where Svenskeren is standing right now. Instead, they actually blow Poppy ultimate and Gragas ultimate just to kill Rush. And because of the GP ultimate, Doublelift can't walk through that, so he's forced out of this fight. Now it's gonna be tempting to watch down here, but focus on Jensen and Doublelift in this fight. Rush actually ends up not going down because Svenskeren and Haunter are like 2 tanky champions. Haunter doesn't have Iceborne Gauntlet yet, or else he could kill Rush. Jensen decides to wrap around here, and he's trying to kill Svenskeren over the wall. Bjergsen is going for Soraka, and Doublelift just got forced out with GP ultimate, so instead of coming down and doing DPS, he's now forced to go up to DPS. And you'll see that play out here a little bit. Sneaky pulls high back in with the Callisto ultimate to avoid Bjergsen's burst. Okay. Svenskeren gets like bursted really hard. You're gonna see it in a second. It's just gonna his health is gonna instantly bloop. Basically, whatever Rush and Haunter are doing doesn't matter because they're not building damage. The most important part of the fight is in this area here. Boom. So The ultimate actually crits Svenskeren, it looks like. So he flashes over the wall, and High kind of like uh, tried to go back in on Bjergsen with the second part of Callista Ultimate. Instead, he maybe should have used it around here, but they get an angle on him. Okay, so now High's out of the fight. He flashes over the wall, and Sneaky gets Braum procced. So this only takes 2 or 3 like hits from double lift now, which happens really quick again, mind you, because of Kog'Maw's W. Uh, so he's basically like instantly stunned. Boom. So Sneaky's dead. If Jensen had stayed in this area, I think they would have picked up Svenskeren and Hanser at the very least. Svenskeren obviously wouldn't have been low, but Jensen would have been able to commit all of his focus on Bjergsen or Doublelift, which would have been more important. I think Svenskeren eventually would have went down with good focus because the other champions would have been busy trying to kill Sneaky and Soraka. But you don't really want to leave Callista and Soraka to 2v3. If you're TF, you want to stand up there and do damage with them. And over again in these fights, we're going to see balls being like the deciding factor. Whenever he's got damage going off, whenever he's got barrels, it just kind of like swings the fight. Doublelift gets a nice pick onto High. So this is actually like looking really good for TSM at this point because they've got 2 items on Doublelift. As soon as he gets lifesteal and completed boots, he'll be a lot better off. I guess they're gonna watch the fight again. Here's the Poppy mistake. Misses the wall. So again, Bjergsen was going in on High Soraka. If Jensen is over here and doing damage to Svenskeren instead of where he's standing, like there's no point where Doublelift can walk past TF. Sneaky would have been able to get a lot more damage off. Not that he's the main damage dealer at this point in the game, but just in general, is kind of a poor fight from C9. This is probably their worst team fight of the game, and they still didn't come out that bad because Balls has so much team presence, team fight presence. Skip ahead a couple minutes here. So C9 still got kind of like a gold lead, but they have no reason to think that they have that big of a gold lead other than 60 CS lead on top lane. So TSM's trying to siege, but TF's got pretty good wave clear, and Sneaky's just autoing the rest down. C9 get into like this kind of weird skirmishy team fight, and then Sneaky overcommits a little bit, but they end up like having Soraka, so that's why they're like one part of that fight. And then as soon as Sneaky goes down, C9 doesn't have any meaningful damage left in order to go back. So that's kind of like the first real push, the first real siege gets stalled out by C9, uh, even if it's good for TSM because they get damage on the tower. It's like still good that C9 doesn't give up the tower outright. And you'll see Balls just split pushing and able to be relevant with waves. His wave management this game is really good actually, and his CS lead will continue to grow as a result of his mobility and just his barrel combo. But then you have to remember he's got an even bigger gold lead because he plunders like half of the CS that he has. So it actually adds up really quickly. Rush is trying to get in on Svenskar in there. Wait, did I fuck up? Okay. I don't think I did. I thought I fucked up the recording. TSM gets Dragon. I don't really remember what happened before that. We'll just kind of roll with it. Oh no, I do remember this team fight though. Okay, so Hanser was looking for the flank, and then stuff started popping off right away, so he decides to teleport in. I actually would have liked to see him teleport in behind everyone, but he's not like a super huge AoE burst. Like maybe if he comes up behind them, he can ult half the team back, and then whoever's left over is just a free pick. So by the time Hanser gets in, all of TSM is out. Doublelift is like pretty notorious for not backing people up in team fights. Sometimes. Okay, so Hanser is taking a lot of his health. Bjergsen is trying to do damage over the wall, but because of the impending threat, he decides to back off. Right? Because he had a lot of people coming on to him. So Rush is still in there, and he's actually out of position at this point, so. Bjergsen comes in for hella damage. Kog'Maw is just doing a lot of work at this point. So right now you're going to see TSM go for the Baron, and they're going to get it. We're going to skip all of that. That was actually a really good Gragas ultimate to keep Rush even further split. And good damage by Bjergsen. So if I remember right, they don't get this mid tower, but they end up going top. Yeah. So then they're going to get this top inhibitor. Then they kill Rush. What was he doing? Oh, okay. So right at this point, TSM has Baron still, right? So C9 needs to waste as much time as they can to where they can't rotate with the Baron buff and get some more towers. So Jensen ults in onto Yellow Star. He will eventually chase him down or pick this one up. Here's the exhaust. So Yellow Star's timing on his abilities was really good there, but Jensen is too sticky with all the stun cards. So that's why Rush was actually that far out. Sterix and GA is not enough to save you from Doublelift's burst. Or Doublelift and Bjergsen. Bjergsen had the burst. Doublelift has the sustained damage. I guess if he crits you though, that's burst, so. So right now, if I'm TSM, I think with top inhibitor down, you rotate to the bottom lane. That tower should be free, yeah. After this, they're gonna go bottom though. And mid tower ended up being free just because they had a lot of pressure and they could see where Gangplank was. This tower is actually free too. If C9 tries to fight at any of these towers, then it's game over. Now, it's really important to watch their playstyle on these inhibitor turrets, the ones that are left. You can kind of lose one side inhibitor, but if you lose two, you're really gonna have a hard time. So TSM recalls, they eventually make it back to the bottom lane. And this is where I really don't like double F's itemization. He's got Frozen Mallet at this point. I think he should have went Bloodthirster. That's just my opinion though. And the reason I think he should have went double Bloodthirster is because he would have had double lifesteal at that point, and he would have been able to stand still for the most part, which is what you want to be doing as Kog'Maw. Bonus health is not very good on Kog'Maw because well, I mean, the item itself, Frozen Mallet's not bad, but bonus health on 80 carries in general is just not that great because you don't have a lot of base stats to go with it. He's actually got Mercurial Scimitar too, but in my opinion, that's like 2 or 3 thousand gold that you're spending on defensive when you could really get like pseudo defensive item with an extra lifesteal item. Maybe like even Death Stance for extra cooldown reduction and a little bit of burst reduction from Jensen. So I just kind of dislike Double Lips itemization. So GP hit the nice barrel, and Double Lift is the most important health bar to watch in these fights. Anytime you see him with low health, that just means that he can't meaningfully contribute as much as he wants to. And Jensen dies here. I don't know if he doesn't have Zanya's yet, or if he just didn't click in time, but this is looking really bad for C9. Like, I remember thinking, like, this is where they're going to lose the game. Soraka starts healing them up, though, and Sneaky's imminent threat starts picking up. So they hold them off. And the other thing you're going to want to pay attention to is, unfortunately, it's all going to be on the minimap, but watch where the top lane gets reset to. Every time C9's about to engage, or they're about to defend a tower, they make sure that their wave is pushed out at least past their where their first inhibitor tower would be, and if possible, they push it out to the second line as well. It just really depends on how much time they've got, because if you push the minions all the way out to here, and there's inhibitor or there's super minions stacking up against you, they will eventually get to the Nexus towers, but it'll buy you extra time in order to team fight, and if you win a team fight, then you can go back and defend. That's why they're playing it like this. They know they need to defend mid and bottom at all costs. That's basically it. So TSM needs to bait Baron here. They actually looked like they were going to be going for it whole hog, and the trinket was pretty well timed to stop them from doing that. Now, at this point, they get a catch onto Rush. The chain is a little bit too long for him to get away from. And you might think this is another TSM Baron, but top inhibitor just respawn. So nobody actually has to be up there right now to defend the Nexus towers. The inhibitor is dying, yes, but they can actually go in and contest because they're not losing their Nexus towers. It's important to note that this does not have to be a team fight win for C9. They just need to waste enough of TSM's time in order for Rush to be back up. So they get one. Double Lift is just destroying people at this point, and the only thing that stops him is a combo from Ball's GP. Top inhibitor went down to minions. They're gonna lose the Nexus tower, but they stopped the Baron. TSM actually can probably do Baron on those health bars. I think that's a huge mistake that TSM didn't force Baron because of their base. If you look at their base, then you know that C9 is going to be going back to defend that. They could have probably finished Baron really quickly. This is what I wanted to talk about. This is where Double F makes mistake number 2. Well, the first mistake is itemization. The second mistake was uh, what I just said a second ago. Doublelift is getting some shots onto the inhibitor. Then he has to run away. So it's basically at half health. Maybe he thinks his team can help him out a little bit. He gets another shot onto it. And then for some reason, he's like 2 or 3 autos from killing it. And he just walks away. Now he's just basically hitting whatever he can hit. And he doesn't ever walk all the way back up. So he decides to kill this pink ward. I think that's the mistake. I think if you pay attention to where Bjergsen is, he zones a bunch of people off. Instead of coming this way and hitting the pink ward, you walk around this expired turret and you just hit the inhibitor. Because you don't want to walk through Soraka's Islands, obviously, either, but that decision to kill that pink ward, it means that this inhibitor survives with like 1 hit. Svenskaren's last auto is not enough to take it, so Doublelift probably thought that it was. Again, Bloodthirster over Frozen Mallet, or a little bit better Micro. And then inhibitor's dead. TSM walks away. Instead, Doublelift has his positioning compromised at this point. Rush is going in for the combo. GP ultimate is down. Rush is going to get the flash in for the combo. Kicks everyone in. And then High's ultimate, or the Callista ultimate comes back in on top of everyone. So that is just the definition of wombo. Is what that is. So C9 wins this fight cleanly. They're trying to do like some cheeky signature Doublelift play where he's like, oh, I'm just alone, and then his whole team's there. So C9 seems to know that they're all there. And Rush kind of pokes his head in over here. And they instantly go for it. So I think at this point, he's building full tank. He's got Guardian Angel and he's got a Soraka. I don't think you can afford to use major cooldowns on this guy. I think he's just soaking up damage. So that Gragas ultimate was well placed, but they're not able to burn Rush down. Soraka ultimate comes out, then the heal, another heal. The GP ultimate is really key here. The front line for TSM is just standing in it. So Hanser goes down. Soraka's keeping everyone healthy. And you're going to see this barrel that Balls has had here the entire time come into play as soon as TSM walks back up. Double F sees an opening. He thinks that they've got some kills coming. He's got a line on the sneaky, more importantly. And he's got Frozen Mallet. So High's in range actually to heal him. Keeps him alive. And you're going to watch from right here. Balls is able to get the combo off. Because this barrel only has to intersect with the circle of this barrel. With the radius. Or diameter, whatever way you want to look at it. So that barrel pretty much wins C9 this fight as well. Rush comes forward. Sneaky's able to get in again. Okay, so good fight for C9. Bjergsen does a good job wasting time here, clearing a wave. And then this is kind of like a weird thing. The Q connects onto the clone. So Rush thinks that he's got the right one, but it's not right. Bjergsen almost finishes off high. Rush comes back in with like his W max, obviously because he's level 18. And that's enough to save high. High gets some health back from the Q. Bjergsen doesn't have any cooldowns anyways, and he's almost out of mana. And then the last E is able to finish off Bjergsen. C9 only gets an inhibitor off this because Bjergsen was able to waste enough time instead of potentially being able to end the game. Proxying that minion wave was really important too, so that's good game knowledge by Bjergsen. Did GP use his ultimate? Oh no, that's a barrel. Okay. So Haunter, this is Haunter's mistake number 2. At this point in the game, against GP and TF, you should not be trying to dive the backline. You're just gonna get CC'd and killed. What Haunter should be doing is sticking around double lift. Bjergsen like gets off a W onto Sneaky and then like teleports all the way back to his distortion mark. So Bjergsen is pretty much out of the fight already. And Haunter decides to wall stun balls here, which basically does nothing, and I think he dies for free. So C9 sees this, they see the ultimate is down. Basically there's no way that they can help Haunter. And he's a free kill. So now this is the point where Double Lips Frozen Mallet actually screws him over even more. As once you're in a full-on team fight, and it only matters about raw stats, that's where the extra AD and lifesteal will help you out more. Still trying to kite. Rush is basically just buying time for a little bit more of a better combo. Gets the Q onto Yellow Star, flashes, gets kind of an angle onto double lift. But it's enough for Balls to get in onto double lift. Balls is all the way up here. But as soon as he sees him use the combo, boom, right over the wall. And they finish off double lift. Even if all the rest of this isn't happening, this alone right here can win you the game. And as you can see, C9 just cleans this fight up. And there's enough death timers for them to end the game.